Modestas Bukauskas, he is a -155 favorite in a light heavyweight matchup against Khalil, the Warhorse Roundtree Jr., who's a +130 underdog, AJ. And I just have to say this, man. I know we're big fans of what is it, Tiger Muay Thai. You know, we're a big fan of that gym over there in Thailand. We're a big fan of Bangkok ready Khalil Roundtree, not Khalil Roundtree, but Bangkok ready Khalil. You know what I'm saying? We're a big fan of that guy. However, Modestas Bukauskas, I feel like, has been flying under the radar because yeah, he's lost a couple. You know, his last one against what is it, Mikhail Alexijuk, right? That was kind of I don't know. I gave it to Bukauskas, but you know, he lost the fight. It is what it is. The judges called it how they saw it, man. I need to ask you this off of the bat. We clearly know with Khalil Roundtree Jr., this isn't a physical issue that he's been having as of late. I mean, in his last 5, he's 2-3. He's coming off a decision loss in his last fight, and then a TKO before that. But we know it's a mental thing. I think he even pondered quickly retirement after one of these last losses. You know what I mean? And then he was snapped out of it. And he was like, "Nah, man, I just need to work harder." In his pre-fight interviews, he was saying, "What is your game plan for this? Work harder." That's it. He kept it simple. He's in Goggins mode. I love it. But my question to you is, do you think it's more difficult to fix a physical error than it is to fix a mental lapse in your performance style? What do you think?
I think it's a lot harder to fix that mental lapse, man, especially because in the gym, you can work hard all day long. You can work it. But if you're not doing the mental work in order to change that, it's hard, especially because like we said before on this program, you know, the first round, that's a very technical fight. You're in your, you're in your element. You're kind of get that flow going. It's really technical. After that, you know, the second and the third round, when the dog fight starts to happen, that's where the mentality starts to collapse. And that's where you really need to be mentally strong. And we've seen a lot of times where fighters, they'll make it out of round 1, but then they tap out because it's a retirement. They're like, "I'm good, man. This is crazy." And it's hard too, when you're in there battling and your body's going, but your mind in there is telling you all these things, stop, or you're not good enough, or whatever the case may be. I feel like that's the hardest thing, man, to get past, especially when you have that negative mindset always in the back of, your back of your mind, just kind of churning and burning things up, and you're not really focused on the task at hand. I think it's good that he's focusing on, I just need to work hard, I need to do this, because it's going to give him a solid foundation in which to build. But that mental game is really, really hard to conquer. And I do think it's a big thing for Roundtree in order to see greatness, achieved. He needs to be able to tackle that mental dog going forward. What do you think is harder, Derek, the mental aspect or the actual physical game plan?
I'd agree with you. I think the mental aspect is so difficult because time flies by, when you're in there, you know what I'm saying? When you're doing any type of competition, time is just, oh, what happened? We're over now? Okay, I just got started, you know what I mean? And that's the thing, is you have to start quick if you're one of these guys, regardless. Bukauskas arguably should be 0-3 in his UFC tenure. His first fight against Andres Michailidis, listen, man, he was losing the fight. He ended up getting some nice elbows at the end of the first round. And then, the story, right, where they opened up the cage and Michailidis didn't know that the cage was open, so he fell back and then they called off the fight. I think that was wrong. That shouldn't have been there. But nonetheless, he got the win. Cool, whatever. So I think there's a lot on the line for Bukauskas here as well, mentally as well. His father is his head trainer, so he's going to be disciplined. He's got the tools to be able to really make some noise in this matchup. But Khalil Roundtree Jr. is a very dangerous man, and if he has overcome some of those mental woes, man, you got to watch out if you're Bukauskas. Now let's actually talk about the matchup here, AJ. The one thing that I see being an X factor here is movement, and his lateral movement specifically. I think Bukauskas is not a stationary target, man. He uses a lot of that movement back and forth. I love how Khalil Roundtree starts off the fight, very bouncy, ready to go, inside calf kick, very Muay Thai upright style, right? Half of that first round goes in and he starts turning stationary real quick. He still got the power. Rounds 1 through 3, the power is there, but he's a 1 punch, 2 punches max in his combos. How do you think that's going to affect him in this matchup against a Bukauskas, who is a volume guy, man? He'll throw a lot, you know what I'm saying? Every single fight, he's gotten better, and he's thrown more volume in each and every fight. But how do you think that stationary versus the lateral movement is going to play out in this matchup here?
Well, I'm glad you noted it, Derek, because that's exactly what I had from Modestas Bukauskas as well. His movement is on point, very slick, especially for 205. You don't see that too much around. What I like about Modestas Bukauskas is it doesn't just wane with each round going on. He stays moving the entire time, and he stays active. Now, with Khalil Roundtree, you said it yourself, man, starts off very bouncy and starts to plot around. I think that's going to be a big X factor coming in, is the fact that Modestas Bukauskas is able to stay on that bike the entire time and really keep things at range. The one thing you don't want to do against Khalil Rountree is get inside where this dude can just lay down some absolute bombs on you, because he has, and at least in my opinion, he has the striking advantage as far as power and speed. Whereas Modestas Bukauskas, his lateral movement, even his head movement in general is a lot more on point and consistent throughout the entire thing. So I'm expecting definitely to have a big impact as far as movement goes for Modestas Bukauskas going forward. I think he's going to be able to stay on the outside, and even if he has to fight off the back foot, make it where he's able to come in and actually impose some threat off the movement instead of just staying inside, 2 feet in the tire and you guys swinging and banging until, bell to bell. I do think it's going to make a big impact going forward on the fight. What do you think, Derek?
Well, I think it'll make an impact the longer the fight goes. If this stays in within 1 round, all that movement don't matter, because if Rountree cracks you with a big one, you're going down. It don't matter who you are. But there's something that's really interesting about this in terms of both of these fighters' prospects, in terms of the matchmaking here, right? I do think that this is an opportunity where the matchmaking said, listen, both of y'all need to show something. Maybe we've given y'all some tough matchups, so what are we going to do? We're going to give you a clone of yourself, and whoever wins, you get to move on. Whoever loses, you get the boot. I honestly think that's what's going to happen. Excuse me. And I wanted to point this out really quickly. This talks significant strikes landed per minute. 3.7 at a 35% clip for Bukauskas. 3.06 at a 38% clip for Rountree Jr. Striking defense is 50% for Bukauskas, 49% for Rountree Jr. Takedown to average per 15 minutes, 0 a pop, man. So literally they're saying like, all right, man, may the best man win. This is the most favorable matchup that we could possibly give you. If you can't win at your own game, you don't belong here in the big show. 2 dudes who are rough and rowdy, who are going to get after it. We will say that Khalil Rountree, he only has 9 fights, but he's been in the UFC for about 6 years, so he hasn't been the most active light heavyweight in the world. But nonetheless, man, he's fought he's fought way tougher competition than Bukauskas. So let's talk last 5s real quick. Marcin Prachnio, Ian Cutelaba, Eric Anders, Johnny Walker, and Gohan Saki for Khalil Rountree Jr. That's a hit list right there, right? And then if we're talking about Bukauskas, the last 3, we had Michailidis, Jimmy Crute, and Mikhail Alexichuk, man. Real tough guys too, but I think Rountree has the experience. He just needs to show up, man. So what's it going to be, AJ? Is it going to be Bangkok-ready Khalil Rountree, or is it going to be regular Warhorse Khalil Rountree? What do you think?
Man, I think I guess time will tell, but I definitely think it's going to be Bangkok ready, Khalil Rountree. He's had a couple rough outings, and that's the last. I mean, I think you said it best, Derek. This is one of those matchups where you're on the cutting block. If you don't perform this one, you're back to the PFL. You're back, you're back to the minors, if you will. No disrespect to any of the other organizations, but I definitely think that's where it is. And that's the last thing you want, especially going in. You got a couple L's on your record. This is the time to perform, and I think we're seeing Bangkok ready Khalil Rountree come out in this one. And you hit the nail on the head. This is fighting fire with fire, and I think it makes a great matchup going forward, man.
Absolutely, man. So it's going to be really, really fun to watch. I will say there is a difference in experience in terms of Bukauskas. He is a former Cage Warriors light heavyweight champ, man. I don't know if Khalil Rountree has ever held any championship status in the minors, or in the regional scene or whatever the case may be. No disrespect to none of these dudes, but I will say one thing that will play an important factor is that Rountree is a southpaw, and that inside calf kick, he's probably going to try to work it all day long. Bukauskas, he is getting better at checking kicks. He has a knack for checking kicks now, but ultimately at the end of the day here, man, Bukauskas, his volume drops when he's under pressure. Rountree's a pressure fighter. Hopefully we see some fireworks here. Give me your prediction on this fight, and once again, are we in consensus? Loser gets cut. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're in consensus on this one. I think loser gets cut. Asterisks on that. I think if Khalil Rountree loses, he's cut, 100% cut. He hasn't been performing as much. I think Modestas Bukauskas, if he loses this one, he gets one more shot, and then if he loses that one, he gets cut on that one. I do think this is a do or die match for both people, though, being in the fact that if this is a fight that Modestas Bukauskas loses, he's definitely on the prelims. He's 100% up and down. Whereas if, like I said, Khalil Rountree loses this one, he's getting cut. But personally, I think Bangkok ready is showing up. I got Khalil Rountree with a KO round 1. I don't think this one's going to go the distance by any means. If it does, we might be seeing Bukauskas with the dub on this one. But I'm going Khalil Rountree, Bangkok ready. He's going to have to change his nickname with this next one. He's getting the KO round 1. Who you think, Derek? Who's getting it done and why?
All right, man. So I'm contrasting again. I'm going Bukauskas here, man. I do think that the mental fortitude might not have been prepared in its entirety for Khalil Rountree Jr. Modestas Bukauskas sounds confident, man. He says he's been watching a lot of tape with his pops, saying they know what they need to do. They're comfortable now. They know they could throw certain techniques and whatnot. And I do think that I'm going to go very specific. So I think Bukauskas wins TKO round 2, but to be specific, TKO in like the latter half, like last minute of round 2, once Rountree really starts slowing down a little bit. Because we saw in the third round of his last fight, man, it was the huffing and puffing. It was the like, okay, let's do it. And I'm not going to lie, his opponent, Marcin Prachnio, was exhausted too in that third round, man. But Bukauskas has a gas tank. His nickname is the Baltic Gladiator. He's the fighting pride for his people, for his country, man. And we'll just see. I just got to see which Rountree shows up, because last time I picked Rountree to beat Prachnio, and I got burned on that one. So maybe a little recency bias for me. Nonetheless, we can move on to the next one.